are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
1:16 to go, 41 yards. Cardona to Allen. Wiskowski. Six titles, 9 appearances. How about the drive to go close it out? You see Tom Brady. Enjoy him, folks. You're never, ever going to see it again. Not in our lifetime. Nope. So here's Zerline, part 1, 48 yards. And we'll end it. No good. The rain continues. Yes, it does. They've got to snap it one more time. The ball will end up in the hands of Tom Brady on the kneel down. And there it is. The dynasty continues.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am your host, Joe Mays. Sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. We're hitting the rhythm here, right?
We got it going on.
And then summer will be here, and that rhythm will be gone.
I mean, unofficially, and at least meteorologically speaking, summer is here. And by the Wilson School District standards, summer is also here. So
I beg to differ.
well, okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just
student focused wise,
yes,
because my daughter is done.
She
does
done.
not
She is
have to
done.
go
She
on
is done.
Monday.
That
So
is true.
in terms of students,
And to be fair, I don't have to go tomorrow either.
okay,
So.
well,
But there are days this week I will go.
so we are.
I'm not
staring
complaining.
down.
Just to be clear, I am not complaining.
Don't worry, he's not watching right now to get any kind of text. So he is volunteering, much like many of our normal viewers and spawn of us are all at the same function for the
Which
next
is why
5
we were
nights.
like, hey, what time works for you? This time.
This time, yeah. Let's do this time. So yeah,
So
we are
everything you need to get done for the week needs to happen in this
in like
2
this
hours.
2.5 hour period after drop off to pick up at the church. You know, we're gonna cram everything we can into this like 6:15 to 8 o'clock, 8:15 time period.
Yes.
For the next 5 nights. So yeah, so here we are, getting to talk NFL again. We're gonna do divisions 5 and 6.
Well, I mean, it's kind of fitting considering NBA and NHL could be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
I hope possibly coming out
hockey's
the way
done
I
tonight.
want them to.
I hope
yeah.
hockey's done tonight.
Well, I mean, wait. What's the NBA series right now?
3-1 Toronto.
Right, yeah, okay, so that is how I want it to end because, I mean, as much as I'm still disappointed that the Raptors are the ones that beat the Sixers, I don't want to see Golden State win again.
See, I kind of want to see Golden State
No,
win.
no.
I don't.
Not enough people
want
that
to,
I like.
I want to dislike the Raptors more than I do.
Like, I feel like this is one and done.
Here's
for
the
them.
thing with the Raptors, though. Here's the thing. I'm like, this could be the Sixers. Like, this could be the Sixers. They lost on a ball that bounced off the rim 4 times.
Right.
However, what they really lost was when they when they didn't score for 9 minutes in Game 4 when they had a chance to take a 3-1 lead on the Raptors and didn't do it.
Yeah. So, a lot of issues, but a lot of could have beens.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, that being said, those are wrapping up soon, and it is going to be time for training camp before you know it. Let's not rush it, though. Let's not rush it.
Right. So, NBA almost over, NHL almost over. Then in about a month, we'll have the Midsummer Classic.
Yeah.
We'll have All-Star Game, which, hey, it's coming back to Philly
Best
in
month.
7 years.
Yeah.
But cool announcement. I'm glad they got to announce that before Montgomery passed away.
Yeah,
So,
me too. And also, I have heard that was a big part of it, that they wanted to do that. They knew he wasn't doing well. But I also heard that they're doing it in an effort to help kind of. They want
Get
like
other
Philadelphia
functions,
wants
yeah.
it because they want to do.
They want to do
everything
a whole bunch of
2026.
stuff. Yeah, they want to host like every All-Star game,
Right.
Drafts, things like that.
I'm on board.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's do it.
What would we have to do? You know how much extra stuff, like special things we'd have to cover then?
Yeah.
I mean, and my ultimate goal right now is to go to that All-Star game.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
And I think 7 years in the future, which is kind of crazy to think about, but like my daughters will be old enough that one or
Right.
both could go with me.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so I'm excited about that. I already started pulling out my old, was it 96?
Just think,
It was
like,
30 years, right? It's a 30-year gap, 96 to
one
2026.
of your daughters will be going into their last year of middle school.
You shut your mouth. That's okay. That just makes them more, they're so cute and lovable right now, but there will be so much. I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to say easier because I know the older they get, the bigger
It's
the
different.
problems
It's
get.
different problems.
But like they're easier to manage, like with your time because they can be so much more independent. And also, if they're interested in going to things like that, I don't have to be like, here, hold my hand the whole time, or make sure that I have a vice grip on them because they're not so tiny. Now that I can at least be like, you need to go to the bathroom, you can go to the bathroom. Like I don't have to take you.
Right.
Which they still look at me. They're like, this is the boys' room. I'm like, well, are you gonna go by yourself?
Right.
If not, I'm not going into the women's room. You got to come into the men's room with me. That's how this operates.
Yeah.
So, but that'll be fun. It is exactly 30 years since the last one, right? The vet hosted in 96.
Which I went to FanFest in 96, and that was like, so that would have been like 6th grade me, I believe. It was awesome. It was so cool. And that was like, that will have been 30 years ago. And so, like, I think about how far things have come now, but like, I just remember it being one of the coolest experiences. Like, they had all kinds of like demo stuff set up. Obviously, they have all kinds of stuff you could buy. They had all these things you could do. You could get on and like you could do play-by-play for like a classic Phillies play. Like,
It sounds a lot like
it was really fun.
NFL experience outside the Super Bowl,
Okay.
kind of like
Yeah.
because that's what we did when my dad and I and Terry and Todd went to the Super Bowl 35 in January 2001. Giants Ravens, right color, wrong city, right color. Also wrong conference. The Vikings actually got destroyed by the Giants to go to the Super Bowl. So Giants-Ravens, that didn't come out in our favor because the Ravens beat up the Giants pretty good. But we got to hang out in and around the Tampa Bay area. We went to I think, was it NFL Experience? Is that what they called it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
But they had like a Madden booth,
Right,
and
right.
like they had all these games you could do, and you got to meet like current and former players and some legends, and like we got pictures. Actually, I still have one of the pictures. Is right over there of the four of us there holding a Super Bowl ball, and we got interviewed by one of the like local stations here because we recognized. I don't remember if it was FMZ or who it was. Reading Eagle. It was a news station though. It was because it was a video recording that we did because they were walking by and we recognized them. And we were like, "Hey, we're from Reading," and they were like, "Oh, we'll interview you," because
That's awesome.
that it was interesting to them because it's a Super Bowl, everyone's interested in, but because of Kerry Collins playing, they wanted to get that local flavor.
So I haven't ever really. I don't think I've ever asked this, or I know this. You guys knew you were going to the Super Bowl before
We
you
knew
who it was, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Oh,
you
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
like.
yeah.
It
No.
wasn't like, oh, Giants are playing, Kerry's playing, let's go.
I
Right.
believe we found out in the I want to say the fall
Okay.
at some point because they used to do a lottery, which I don't even think they do anymore, where like anyone could send in, like you had to fill out this information, you send it into the NFL, and they would do random drawings for, I don't remember how it was, 500, 1,000, and it was however many number of winners got 2 tickets to purchase at face value. So at the time, I think when we went to the Super Bowl, they were like between $350 and $400 a ticket, which is cheap by today's standards.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They're like 3 times that much. And that's basic tickets at face value are now over $1,000. So when we went, it was right around $400. I want to say, I have my tickets somewhere. I want to say it's like $375 or something. And for years, my dad would send in, and he would use the employees from the sandwich shop and family members, and he would be like, "Look, I'll pay for the postage. I'll send this all in. Can I use your address? Because you can only do one per address."
Right.
But he's like, "If you hear back, like I want those tickets," and we didn't hear for years. Well, in the fall of 2000, we got not 1 but 2 chosen, and I don't remember what person that my dad sent them in on his behalf, but so we got 2, so we knew that. my dad, me, and Terry were going, and then Todd was the next one up.
That's cool.
And it was actually, they surprised him with it at Christmas.
Oh, man.
That he was going, and it's only a month later,
Right.
So that it was happening. So I think my uncle, Todd's dad, knew, so like he was already getting stuff behind the scenes settled. But so yeah, we all went to the Super Bowl. We didn't know obviously at the time who was playing. We just were going. We were going for the event. Like, we wanted to see it happen.
I've heard that about the Super Bowl. I've heard like if you have the chance, you should go, regardless of whether it's because let's be honest, like we're not so much in a spot where like, oh, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. I should go. Like, that's not really.
You don't.
Could I do it? I guess technically yes, but like,
It just depends on how much you're willing to pay.
right. And so by that standard, no, I can't do
Right,
it.
yeah.
Whereas like if it's something you plan out, like for example, like I want to go to the All-Star game in 2026, regardless of how many Phillies are in or something like that, like. Okay, you just kind of make it happen. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
And it's amazing though to think. Like,
I was pretty sure that was the situation,
Right.
but I wasn't 100% sure.
how much it's changed in in 18 and a half years. This year it'll be 19 years since we were there. The venues really haven't changed that much. It still comes in and out of Tampa Bay, but I'm sure the compensation and obviously the cost is different. But like when we got to our seats, every seat had a seat cushion with the logo on it. Now it didn't have teams listed. It was just the Super Bowl logo. So we have a seat cushion for that. Obviously we bought a program, but in the seat cushion came like headphones, like an AM FM transmitter radio, so you could like listen to the broadcast of the game. It had binoculars, like it had all this stuff is inside your seat cushion.
That's cool.
So it was really cool. My cousin and I sat in. We were in the one end zone in the corner. My dad and Terry were in the same end zone, the other corner.
Okay.
But it was a cool experience. We stayed the whole time. We watched the end, even though it was the Ravens
absolutely.
that won.
You gotta soak it all
And
in.
I had to see Ray Lewis standing there with his grin on his face, just a
Your
year
favorite.
removed from killing someone.
What's your favorite move?
So
hey, we don't know. We don't know.
but no, I mean it was great. I wouldn't trade it for anything for the world. It was an amazing opportunity, and
That's cool.
we've been trying to go back ever since. But they don't do that lottery program, so you pretty much have to know someone, which that's not happening.
Right.
Or you're willing to pay a lot of money.
Right.
But yeah, it's something my dad and I would like to do again. So we'll see what happens. But that was an incredible opportunity. I mean, it would have been cooler to see either the Giants win or a team that we really cared about. But seeing Kerry Collins play in the Super Bowl,
That's pretty cool, too.
It was pretty sweet. So we are not talking about the Giants this evening, but we are talking about the Ravens because we're covering the North divisions, and we will get to the AFC North probably second. So we're going to start in the NFC North, which is probably one of the better divisions to talk about for 2019 because we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the NFL.
Those Bears uniforms, I love them.
I love the
them.
uniforms. I'm not a huge fan of the helmet.
No,
and the
I love the
socks.
helmet too. I love it. Oh my gosh, they're probably my favorite part.
It's just odd to me that like the spacing on the like I know, and like if it's throwing it back, like I get it, that's fine.
It's weird.
I mean,
I get it.
There are some throwbacks that are awful, and then there are some throwbacks, the Dolphins, that are incredible.
Yeah. So like, I really like them. I am glad they're not like what they've changed their uniform to.
Now, are they wearing that every game this year?
I thought
like did they get a waiver because of the 100th anniversary?
I thought they were only wearing it the first game.
Oh, it's just
like,
the first game.
I don't know that for sure, but I thought it was that first game, which is the Thursday night game, that opener. Like I thought that's when they're wearing it. I could be wrong. Like most of the alternates, they may wear it like a couple times. Like it would be
I
cool
think
if
you
they
can
were
wear it up to 3 times unless you get a waiver from the NFL.
Right. I mean, if there was going to be a waiver, like this would be a good example of a time to
the
do it.
NFL, because of the concussion thing, they limit the helmet thing, which is odd to me because if the helmet fits one way, well, also like if you get the same helmet, like how hard? It's not hard to calibrate them.
Right.
Like it's really not.
They also paint the helmets every week.
Right. You can also paint it a different color. Like, and the biggest drawback is right now for the Eagles because we want to see the Kelly green.
Yeah.
They can't really wear the Kelly green with the midnight green helmets.
No,
like that would just look stupid.
That would be awful.
Now maybe the Eagles next year, was it next year?
I
Like
know,
2020
yeah.
that they could completely go to the Kelly green?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. And I hope now this can't happen for Miami I think until 2023. but they're wearing the throwbacks 3 times this
Right,
year.
yeah.
And they introduced a new throwback because they had been wearing the aqua throwback. Now they're wearing the white throwback. So they're going.
Well, see, like
they're doing your favorite: white helmet, white jersey,
love it.
white pants, and it's the throwback.
I love it.
It's going to be
so good.
awesome.
I wouldn't mind if the Bears wore that like as their home uniform this year. You know what I mean? Like, where is your home uniform?
I don't care.
Wear
Like,
your regular one on the side. Yeah, like, but I understand that there are guidelines there, but when it comes to uniforms, I understand where you don't necessarily want it something like Oregon in the NFL, where it's something new every week. But at the same time, I'm like, look, if you have a few set things, like, go for it, you know. But
I'm going to pull it up here and put it on the screen in case someone hasn't seen it yet that's watching this. You know, it is their 100th anniversary, like with the NFL, because the NFC North teams are some of the founding members of professional football in the United States. So
pretty cool logo they have there too.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a cool time. I'm not sure why this isn't showing up. That's unfortunate. Just white, seeing white is not helpful. No, neither was clicking that button. That didn't help anything either. Let's see if I can figure out a different way. Nope, just showing white. Good.
All right.
Well, I will keep working on that.
That's
but I was hoping to show what the jerseys look like, because if you haven't seen them, you know, it'd be cool to be able to take a look. But you know, it's going to be fun. 100 years in the NFL, 150 years of college football, 75 years of Wilson football. So it's a pretty significant year. So it's going to be a lot of fun throughout. I think every club has its own 100 symbol that they'll be wearing on, I think, the neckline. I think it's all like going right at the chin on their jerseys this year. So it's going to be a good time. So yeah, see, like, I like the jerseys. I think that looks really cool.
It looks like straight up like an Auburn jersey.
Yeah, it kind of does. You're right. Yeah, that is pretty cool. So,
But it's cool. I like it. Yeah.
But so the Bears are one of the teams we're going to talk about, and the Vikings, Packers, Lions. So we saw the Bears' renaissance last year because they had a down year in 2017. Were able to come back last year, finished 12-4, and they fell to the Eagles at the double doink.
Yeah.
I was in Disney World during that. I remember I was on a friendship boat coming back from Disney Studios, and someone was streaming it on their phone. And so I'm like watching over their shoulder, sitting there with my family on a Disney boat, trying to figure out if the
It's
Eagles
like an
had won the
NFL
game.
commercial.
And I'm not even
or like a Verizon commercial.
Right, yeah.
This is like
I stand up. Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, it didn't even matter to me, but I knew that everyone back home was freaking out. So I was like, I need to know what's going on. But yeah, so the Bears went 12-4. They won the division. First time they had won a division since 2010. It had mostly been dominated by the Packers and the Vikings in the last 7-8 years. But then the Bears were able to get it done last year. First year head coach Matt Nagy, semi-local guy coming from Manheim Central. Cool connection there. Amazing to think that also Frank Reich from Cedar Crest as a head coach in the NFL.
I am almost certain. I need to look it up. I'm almost certain that those districts border each other at the northern part of
Cedar Crest and Manheim
County
Central,
and the southern part of Lebanon County. Yeah.
No, it is incredible that that two guys from a small place can, because you feel like that would happen in a place like, I mean, New York's not necessarily a football hotbed, but
Florida,
like California or
Texas, Southern California,
and maybe it does, and maybe this isn't that a unique thing, but for it to be in South Central, Southeastern Pennsylvania, that's
or
a pretty big deal.
Pittsburgh, like it happens out there,
right?
Like
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Maybe not coaches, but like players.
But like we're far enough away from Philly to not call ourselves Philly, you know, because we're not within like that 20, 30 miles. You know, we're double that. We're outside. I feel like Lancaster, Lebanon's even farther from Philly, so. Yeah. But it's really cool, and everyone's kind of cheering for the Bears and except when they're playing the Eagles. Obviously, yes. I don't think anyone really has that much hatred for the Bears around here.
I mean, there's some Packers fans everywhere.
Right,
so
they're
I go
everywhere,
with that.
yeah.
But no, it's not really. There's definitely more people pulling for the Bears because of Matt Nagy than cheering against them because they don't like the Bears. You know, so.
Right. So. The question now is, where are we going to slot the Bears, Vikings, Packers, and Lions?
This one's tough.
This one is very tough to me. You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
You go first.
All right, so we're going to start at the bottom like we always do. We're going to do fourth place in the division. And I think actually 3 of these 4 teams underperformed last year.
Yeah.
And I expect a little bit more. See, this is where I find it tough because a lot of times you'll see a team with a new regime that'll bump up their win total.
Yeah.
Did the Bears overachieve last year? Could they see a fallback? Winning 12 games isn't an easy thing to do. So I'm not sure they're going to get there this year. But
Especially
I don't think
in a good division,
right? But I also don't think they're going to fall off by like 4 to 6 wins. Like I still think they're going to be up there. But then again, you have the Lions entering with a second-year head coach. Green Bay has a new coach. And what about the Vikings? Like I just feel like those 3 teams all underperformed last year.
Right. And so let's throw in Chicago. I know we'll get to these things. We don't have to discuss it right now, but things I think about, where do I slot Mitchell Trubisky?
Right.
So, he could be, at times, depending on how the season goes, he could be the best by performance quarterback. Now, I'm not saying he was last year or that he will be this year.
Right, name recognition, he's still 4th.
Could be the best. He could be the worst, All right, and then you're like, well, yeah, but the defense. Yeah, the defense lost their defensive coordinator. Now, that doesn't always translate to, a big factor, but sometimes it does, So I don't know. Like you said, there are 3 teams that I felt underperformed or underachieved last year, and the team that overachieved, and it makes it interesting.
What maybe they overachieved. I don't know. But the thing that tells me that maybe they didn't is that all of their losses were by 7 points or less, including 2 in overtime, and another by a point.
True.
So, they could realistically have gone undefeated with a couple bounces their way. Now, sure, they won a couple games by a touchdown or less, including against the Cardinals in Week 3, 2 points. But there's other times that they blew people away.
They should have beat the Packers Week 1.
Right, they should have beat the Packers Week 1. They probably should have beaten the Dolphins in Week 6.
And they definitely should have beat the Giants.
Right, and they should have beaten the Giants in Week 13. But they only lost the Patriots by a touchdown, and we know what the Patriots did last year. Now, that was at Soldier Field, so, you flip that game and played in New England. New England probably beats them by more than a touchdown. But it just seems that whatever Nagy and his staff did, plus the acquisitions of the front office, Khalil Mack, not exactly someone that you can push aside. Bears, I think, to me, are fit to stay there. So they are definitely not my number 4 team.
No, they're not mine either.
But where do you put the other 3?
Okay,
and
so
I want to say Packers. I want to say Packers are the worst team in the NFC North.
See, they came up last week when we were, or at least maybe in my head, but they came up when we were talking about the how in the South it's kind of the opposite with the Saints for your picks. We used to always be for the Patriots, for example. The other example I had was the Packers. Now, we're a couple years removed from that, but we used to always go with, until I've seen otherwise, I'm picking the Packers in the NFC North.
Yeah.
That was a few years ago, but that was still
they won. I think they won the division 4 years in a row.
Right.
So.
And now I still feel at what point does that become, I'll believe the Packers are different when I see that they're different.
Yeah.
Meaning they've moved on from what we just referenced and that they just don't have it.
I don't know. I mean, they have a new head coach, which gives me pause to think, maybe Matt LaFleur will turn it around. Maybe Aaron Rodgers hasn't burned enough bridges. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will be healthy enough. But they were, 6-9-1 last year?
Yeah, and okay, so even if, I know this is sounding sacrilegious to some people because they feel like Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. But if he's healthy the whole time, where do you slot them? Because I still don't know that he has, he's got a couple of receivers. He does have a couple of receivers. Devontae Adams is a beast.
But that's it.
Yeah, Geronimo Allison has flashes.
Well, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he kind of, took at least the fantasy world by storm a little bit there last year. He was picked up in many leagues.
Jimmy Graham, they didn't really hit it off very well. Who's going to be running back still?
Well, that's been a question for how long?
How long can they protect?
Is it Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams? Right. What about the line? Are Bakhtiari and Balaga going to get it done? Will they stay healthy? That's been their biggest issue.
Their defense, they very easily could have the 4th-ranked defense in the division next year.
Well, they haven't been very good for how long? That's
Right.
People think that's the reason they don't have an additional Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, because their
Right.
defense hasn't been able to stop
So
anyone.
so if your defense isn't like, I don't feel like their defense is like giving us reason to be like, oh, they're going to be a lot better than last year. And the offense, like, okay, if you have Rodgers, obviously that's probably a few more wins. Like, I'm not going to discredit that, but they're more than just a few more wins from being a playoff team.
Right.
You know, like, now maybe not technically, but in this division this year, I think they are. So, yeah, I don't know.
So they went 6-9-1 last year.
3 more wins might still not get you, probably still doesn't get you in.
Right. But I'm not sure that they're better than 6 wins.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't.
Well, let's look at their schedule, because we looked over the personnel and nothing jumps out. I mean, they did take our boy Adrian Amos from the Bears.
Yeah, and I love him.
Yeah.
Like, and that was a great one, and it was just, that was tough.
So they open with the Bears, which is the Thursday night opener, because
At
it's
Chicago.
the 2 most prestigious pro football teams in the nation,
Right.
is the Packers and the Bears.
But you got to think the Bears will be favored in that one.
It's at Soldier Field, so yeah, I would think so. So now they host at Lambeau the next 3 weeks, but it's the Vikings, Broncos, and Eagles. Vikings, I don't know, we'll get to them. I mean, at best, I would say it's a push, though.
I agree.
Now you have the Broncos. Again, I would say probably push, but because it's a Lambeau, maybe you favor the Packers, and you get the Eagles. Well, now I think the Eagles are better than the Packers.
I mean, I hope they are, but like,
I think they are.
Okay,
Now, like,
good. I like it.
You can say push because it's at Lambeau. If it's in Philly, I'm taking the Eagles the whole way. But even so, like the
but if you're
Packers
playing them
haven't
in
been,
Lambeau in September, that's not all
well,
that
they
different.
haven't been invincible at home. That's
No.
the thing. Like, it
No.
hasn't been, at least not last year.
No.
Then they got to go to Dallas. Dallas, I think, is better than the Packers. Plus, it's in Dallas. Then you have the Lions. Again, I think probably a push. Maybe favor the Packers because it's at home. Maybe. Raiders, again, probably favor the Packers. But then at the Chiefs, that's a loss. At the Chargers, that's a loss. You get Carolina right before the bye. Again, I'm not sure there's any games on there that I'm like, that is an absolute Green Bay win, because the weeks after the bye, at San Francisco, at the Giants, are they definitely better than them, especially on the road? Like, I feel like their best case scenario are a bunch of pushes and then a bunch of losses.
Right.
There's
So,
no game on there that I'm like, that is
I
a
think what
guaranteed
helps them
win.
with the Eagles too is that's the Eagles on the road on a Thursday night. I just saw that, so that could be, you know, if you want to lean. But even if you're leaning Eagles, does that maybe just make you more of a push in that one? You know,
Right.
It's tough. I could see them being the worst team again. And here's the thing: there is zero confidence that if it does not start well, that it's not going to be a dumpster fire with Aaron Rodgers and the new coaching staff.
Right.
Like, because you're paying one guy, and that could get ugly.
Oh, absolutely. It could get ugly real fast. So I think they're my worst team, and I think I'm going to drop them to 5-11.
Wow.
If Aaron Rodgers wasn't the starting quarterback there, do they win more than 3 games?
No.
Deshaun Kaiser, who was already shipped out of Cleveland, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't see how
No.
how this team is going to get much done.
Yeah,
I really don't. Unless the new coaching staff has this new philosophy, there's, you know, reinvigoration, more energy, but still, personnel-wise, I just don't think that they have what it takes to get it done. I just don't.
So I'm kind of split because I think the Bears are better than them. I think the Vikings are better than them. I don't know that the Lions are better than them. That's kind of where I'm stuck right now.
And I get that.
Because I like Matt Stafford, but I'm like, he didn't have a great year last year. There was so much dysfunction early on. They seemed to get it together a little bit, but it's crazy. So anyway, I'm going to go with. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Packers at worst. I'm going to put them at the same win-loss record, though.
Well, they had a tie, so you going for the tie again?
Oh, no. I'm going to put them at 6 and 10.
Okay. So I'm 5-11. You're 6-10, but we both agree Packers is the worst team in the division. I just don't know where else to go with that.
Right.
I'm not sure. Like Lions are my next. They're my 3.
Yeah, my
Lions
3 too,
are
and
my
I'm putting them at 7 wins.
Lions are my 3. So they were 6-10 last year. So you're bumping them up a win.
A win.
I think because I dropped the Packers at 5-11, I'll bump them up 2. I think I could see the Lions at 8-8.
Okay.
I'm not a Matt Stafford hater, but again, he hasn't done enough for me to convince me that he's gonna get it done. I mean, they do have Cook and Savage there to back him up, which that's decent depth there. They're not guys that are gonna win you a division, but I think like they're comfortable if Stafford would have an injury. They brought in C.J. Anderson, who was the best running back the Rams had in the playoffs, which is crazy to think because what Todd Gurley did during the regular season.
There's all this talk now that Todd Gurley, it might be arthritis problems.
Yeah.
And he might be done.
Right, that's
He
nuts.
may be done.
But I mean, their running back depth is incredible with
Yes.
C.J. Anderson, Kerryon Johnson entering his second year, Theo Riddick, and Zach Zenner.
Yeah.
That is a stable right there. That is 4 deep, and they also have the rookie Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
So they've got plenty in the backfield. Not a one-horse backfield, but we talked like most. You need to have 2 or 3.
And then while they don't have, Danny Amendola may be the biggest quote-unquote name on their wide receivers. They've got better guys, and so Danny Amendola in that 3rd or 4th wide receiver guy, that's huge because he can still be a 3 or 4 wide receiver. He's not a 1 or 2.
They got Jermaine Kearse, Marvin Jones, and Kenny Golladay, and then you throw Amendola in there. They got 4. I think Devontae Adams is better than those, but the depth again is better in Detroit.
100%. And so okay, you throw 2 guys at Devontae Adams. Okay.
Oh, and they also completely redid their tight ends by signing Jesse James, who was always, he was miscast as a number 1 in Pittsburgh, but he's a more than capable number 2.
And he's a great tight end because he can block too.
And then they drafted T.J. Hawkinson. So now you got 2 tight end threats.
Right.
Offensive line, again, always kind of being in flux, but they got Taylor Decker and Rick Wagner. When you got those guys on the bookend and Frank Ragnow at center, like they're moving in the right direction.
Right.
So if they settle the rest of the interior, they find 2 guards to fit into that group, I think they've got a better line than the Packers. Defensively, now this could be an issue, but they signed maybe the biggest free agent this year in Trey Flowers.
Yeah.
Coming to join, the former Patriot coming to play with his former coordinator in Detroit. So you add him on the edge. And obviously that's an upgrade. Last year, they had some issues in the secondary. I'm not sure that they did enough to address it. But again, Darius Slay is one of the better cornerbacks in the league, probably one of the more underrated cornerbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And at worst, I think it's a push with Green Bay. But honestly, I think they're better than Green Bay on paper.
I can see that. Because when I look at it, I feel like their defense is maybe slightly ahead of Green Bay's, just slightly. And I feel like their offense, while I would pick Aaron Rodgers over Matt Stafford, I'm probably going with Detroit at every other position. Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
And like you said, I think Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver on either of those teams. But the next 4 or 5, I'm probably picking from the Lions.
Right.
Maybe not 5, but probably 4. So I can see that. Yeah, I agree.
And I just think I can look down this thing and I can pick out games where I'm taking Detroit.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't do that with Green Bay. There were a bunch of pushes and a bunch of losses. Here, I would take Detroit over Arizona. I'd take Detroit, and at least one of the Green Bay games, I'd take Detroit.
Yeah.
I would probably take Detroit against the Giants because it's at home. It's at Ford Field. Oh. So there's games that I can go down and be like, I think Detroit wins that game. Tampa Bay in Week 15. So, I think I can pick out at least 3 or 4 non-pushes that I would say these are wins. Yeah. So I just think there's a chance for them to get to 8 wins. They're still my 3rd-place team, but I think Detroit can get to 8-8.
Yeah, I can see that. I still don't think they're that good. I think they'll be better than last year. But
you have them in 3rd, right? At 7 and 9.
I still feel like they're just gonna be spinning the wheels a little bit. I feel like they're gonna leave some games on the table.
So the team I'm guessing we both have in 2nd place then are the Vikings. They dropped from 13-3 to 8-7-1 last year, so a 5-victory drop, which is pretty significant. after they got rid of Case Keenum and they brought in Kirk Cousins, people thought that, they're destined for an 11, 12-win season again, and it just didn't come together. The offense struggled at times, and the defense definitely wasn't the same as it was in 2017. So what's on the table for 2019? Well, to me, I think that maybe last year they definitely underachieved, and maybe they had some bad luck. I think we could see a small improvement. So I have them in second, but I have them at 9-7, just slightly in front of Detroit.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them at 9 wins as well. Like I don't think they are as good as they were 2 years ago. I think they're a little bit better than they were last year. Like they had some bad breaks last year, but at the same time, like I just don't know. Like I feel like they got old quick. At some key spots, and
I feel like on paper they should be at no worse than the second best team, but at a few wins higher.
So you look at it like
it just
Kirk Cousins. I don't really know what to think there. Like
it seems to me that he's a stats guy, but doesn't get the one that's important.
He can throw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns against you any Sunday
and lose.
But if it's a primetime game or a meaningful game, he's probably not the guy. Based on his track record, I'm not saying that he can't do it. Based on what you've seen, he hasn't done it.
Right.
All right, but look, if Dalvin Cook is healthy, which is a huge thing because he's had a tendency to be hurt.
But at least he's a year removed from the knee.
That's true. So Dalvin Cook is really good.
And then you spare him with Amir Abdullah. So that's a decent 2 deep right there. And at receiver, man, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, that's a great one too right there.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then if Laquan Treadwell ever gets his act together, that should be maybe the best receiver trio in the division.
I agree.
If Treadwell can get it together.
I agree.
And especially because Rudolph's at tight end.
Yep.
Like that is a very good 3x1.
Right. But you end up they had huge questions, a lot because of injury on the offensive line last year. But have they fixed that? Did they do enough to fix that? Right. Now, will Dalvin Cook being healthy and what they've changed on the offensive line, will that be enough? If it is, they could win the division.
I mean, as much as people want to pin dysfunction last year or inefficiency on Kirk Cousins, the bigger thing I think was how much the defense took a step back.
Yeah.
It seems like ever since the Eagles destroyed them in that playoff game, they weren't the same unit.
People forget they took the lead and had the ball against the Eagles early in the first quarter, and then Keenum got hit by Chris Long, I believe.
I think so.
And it got picked and run back for a touchdown, and the route was on. The Eagles. I don't know that the Vikings scored again the rest of the game.
Right. Well, Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, Linval Joseph. These are defensive line guys that have been in the league for a while, are seasoned veterans, and they had an incredible year, at least Griffin and Joseph a few years ago, that they were beating up people good. And when you got Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks at linebacker, and then the defensive backs that they trot out there, I should say, Mackenzie Alexander. Oh, he's your 3 because you have Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes.
Right.
And then your safety is Harrison Smith, who for a long time had been massively underrated, and now he's almost gone the other way that people talk about him, and I'm not sure, at least last year, having a down year.
He got burned.
Yeah, he got exposed a little bit. So if that defense can get up to 75% of what it was in 2017, this team could win double-digit games.
Yeah,
it's just last year was
I feel like I'm looking at this and I'm like, if everything goes right,
they could win the division if everything goes right.
They could, but how often? Everything went right for them 2 years ago up through the NFC Championship,
and everything went wrong last year.
Right. So it's not likely that either one of those scenarios is going to happen. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, which is why I have them at 9 wins. I know that's closer to the everything went wrong, but I think there was something special with that 13-3 team. You get going, it didn't happen for them. They didn't get to the Super Bowl. It doesn't mean the year was a failure. I know in some realms it does, but that was a heck of a year.
Right.
Last year they underachieved. It's hard to kind of recapture that because the teams are so different from year to year. So I don't know that Kirk Cousins and these guys can capture that feeling and get going. Can you have that feeling with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback? I don't know. Can Dalvin Cook stay healthy? can the offensive line stay healthy to protect both those guys?
Yeah. I just sitting here right now because of I think they were unlucky and underachieved, and I think they could take a step forward this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Vikings unseat the Bears. But for right now, the way I'm feeling, I'm going to slot them in at second at 9-7 and have the Bears in first. Now, I don't think they're going to get to 12-4. The Bears are going to be 11-5. But looking in terms of potential or at least names on paper, honestly, I think the Vikings have the bigger names and positional groups that are better, especially now with the Bears getting rid of Howard to the Eagles for basically nothing.
Yeah.
Now, I like Tariq Cohen, but is he an every down back? Are they rolling with Mike Davis? Are they expecting David Montgomery to take some of those carries? Tariq Cohen is electric, but he's not an every down back. He's not a short yardage guy either. And we talked about Trubisky. It's even to start this season after last year, he could still be maybe the fourth best quarterback in the division.
Right. He could be. Like, who knows?
He could be.
If they win the division again, you could probably, based on that,
maybe
you
he's
could probably
two.
make an argument that he's the second.
Yeah, he's probably. I mean, even if Aaron Rodgers, even if the Packers don't have a good year, I expect Rodgers to still have a great year and still be the top 5 quarterback in this league. But if Trubisky is able to duplicate back-to-back double-digit win seasons, you probably vault him up to 2 above Stafford and Cousins.
Right? No, I agree.
But at least to start the year, one good year is great, but you got to keep doing it. So to start the year, Trubisky to me is probably the 4th best.
Yeah.
But that can change. But running back wise, you got Cohen and not too much. And wide receiver, I love Allen Robinson, but Cordero Patterson's now bounced around the league, and he's mostly a speedy guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't really caught on as a receiver. He's mostly a specialist.
Yep.
Then who else do you have? Taylor Gabriel also bounced around the league. He's a great 3 or 4, but where is your other contributors at wide receiver?
So Riley Ridley is an interesting one. I think he could be good for them.
The rookie
from Georgia. He actually outplayed his brother in SEC championship game 2 years ago, or
is that Calvin?
Yeah, he's from Georgia. His brother is Calvin.
Alabama.
He's the younger brother. He's not Calvin Ridley. Like he's not. You're not going to get the same play, but I think he could be solid for them. He's not the number 1 guy, but I think he could be good opposite Allen Robinson. But yeah, I agree. Like there are more questions there. However, I feel like the defense is still going to be good. I know I questioned them to start the show when I talked about how their defensive coordinator is now gone, but I think the defense still gets it done here.
Right. Well, I mean, they got a couple guys along the defensive line, a lot of no-name guys. Eddie Goldman's a good nose tackle. Akeem Hicks came over from the Eagles a couple years ago. Jonathan Bullard as well. He's a solid defensive end for them. A lot of other, rookie bodies that they're going to be throwing in there into the fire. But where they really excel is linebacker with Leonard Floyd, Khalil Mack, and Roquan Smith. And Roquan Smith didn't even have a great year last year, and that's not to mention Danny Trevathan, a couple other guys that they have inside there. So they got a decent, 3 or 4, depending on what defensive alignment they go with. And in the defensive backfield, it hurts losing, our boy that we already talked about, Adrian Amos. But they got Amukamara. They brought in Clinton Dix. Kyle Fuller is still there. Eddie Jackson, one of the better free safeties in the league. And Sherrick McManus, Buster Skrine. So, they have the talent and the depth to overcome maybe a lack of standouts along the defensive line. But when you're throwing that linebacker crew out there, they're going to be a tough out. So, yeah, I definitely think they have the defensive parts to hang with the Vikings. And last year they proved that they were better than the Vikings.
Yeah.
So we both have the same path. Bears, Vikings, Lions, Packers.
I'm only putting the Bears at 10 wins, though. And I think so I have my teams going
10-9-8-7.
Yeah.
So first and
no,
last
10-9-7-6.
10-9-7-6.
Yeah,
okay.
so I think it's going to be close. But
no disrespect to the Bears and Matt Nagy, but if I had to choose a Cinderella story, I'd love to see it be the Lions, just because they haven't won the division since 1993.
Yeah.
And they haven't been in the
I'd
playoffs
be happy
since
for Matt Stafford.
When was the last time they were in the play? Oh, they were in the playoffs in 2016. I was thinking they'd been a while, but no, they've actually made the playoffs only as a wild card team a bunch over the last few years. But I would love to see them possibly shock everyone and then win that division. But I still favor the Bears there. So how about the AFC North? Another interesting one.
This one is interesting because you've got a team that did a complete overhaul over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Are we going to be able to see them do it? Do you think
let's start at the other end, and I'm not going with the Browns to lose the division
Well,
in fourth place. So,
right. Right. We're going to start at fourth, but do mention that the Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions haven't won the division since 1993. Well, the Cleveland Browns, hold my beer because it's been since 1989.
Different franchise.
True, completely. Not even the same team. Well, I mean, I guess technically the Ravens became a new franchise, and the Browns they had a hiatus for 4 years or whatever it was. Yeah. But so Cleveland hasn't won a division since 1989, and you mentioned before the show there are likely maybe the majority of the current Browns roster that were not even born the last time they won the division.
And just to throw this out there, in 1989 they lost in the wild card playoffs to a team that doesn't exist anymore.
Correct.
In its same form.
Right, because technically the Tennessee Titans own the rights to the Houston Oilers, and that is the same franchise because the Houston Texans were a new franchise in 2002. They did not take over the Houston Oilers history.
Right.
That's
because it was the Oilers
Titans.
when they went to Tennessee for a year. They were
They were the Tennessee Oilers.
Right.
Yeah, so amazing. And actually, they were still part of the AFC Central at that time. And we've been in the AFC North now since 2002. Right. So that, just kind of context there on what the Browns are dealing with this year. But last year, the Ravens won the division at 10-6. They fell in the playoffs to the Chargers. And they did not have a wild card qualifier because the Steelers, they fell apart at the end of the year.
The bed, man.
Yeah, they did not have a great year. But I think we're both going to be the same on who we have finishing fourth in the AFC North, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I
agree.
They were 6-10 in fourth place last year, and I just don't know if they're going to be that much better this year. Now, they finally did get rid of Marvin Lewis. They brought in Zach Taylor, I believe the Rams quarterback coach. Was he the offensive coordinator, or was he just the quarterback coach? So he wasn't even necessarily handling all the play calls.
No, he's not, because McVay is.
Right.
He was the offensive coordinator on the team where he didn't call the plays. And you're behind the genius. This is one of those where they said he got a job because he talked to, you've been in the same room as McVay.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Bengals, but they were not great last year.
Now, they're probably good for a few less suspensions and personal fouls for unnecessary roughness because Vontaze Burfict is finally not there.
Right.
So, oh my gosh.
I don't know. I don't know.
What when you look at them, where do you think, oh man, they're better now?
Right, because Andy Dalton didn't even finish the year last year. He was injured.
You can say that for a lot of years.
They and same thing, as much as love AJ Green, he hasn't been able to stay healthy now the last few years, and he's probably entering the downside
Which is a shame because when I look, AJ Green is incredible. Tyler Boyd is really good, and John Ross I think can be good with those two other guys out there.
I feel like he's now this version of Cordero Patterson because he had the speed, but he hasn't been able to do much.
And else. I agree. I think part of that is because I feel like they just haven't been able to. Some of that's on the guy, like you're professionals. Like some of that's on them, absolutely. But I feel like he was in maybe one of the worst possible scenarios to actually develop. Because when you look at the Bengals, you're like, who have they developed into somebody that has been consistent? They have for some guys, and then they always get hurt. You look at running back, Joe Mixon can be electric when he's there. Giovanni Bernard is a good alternative back. Just that kind of pound it, but.
Bernard and Mixon is fine, stable. Those two guys. They got a couple rookies coming in that'll probably be, a third down guy or on special teams. So, Andy Dalton's serviceable, but not great.
Right.
Wide receivers, you mentioned, those three wide receivers, that's a pretty good trio right there. And they've got a couple guys to supplement or replace if need be. A tight end, if Eifert can stay healthy, and that's a huge if when it comes to him. But CJ Uzomah is not, nothing to sneeze at. No. And they brought in Drew Sample, the rookie as well. So, they have the pieces that you wouldn't think that this is the worst team in the AFC North, but I don't know. I feel like
I feel like this comes down to: do you feel like the coach and the new staff is enough to make them not the worst team?
And can Dalton and Green stay healthy?
I feel like that's going to be it's kind of twofold. One, it looks like a great hire if it's true. If it goes bad, then
yeah. Well, I mean, their first round pick was the Alabama tackle Jonah Williams.
I feel
That
like
should
if
be a
this, I
huge
feel like if
upgrade.
this goes bad, it could have 1 year coaching scenario written all over it, which is kind of crazy because they held on to Marvin Lewis
for so long. But, again, the defense, guys that are probably past their peak, and Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap, they finally got rid of Vontaze Burfict. And, what else do they really have? They've had issues at linebacker for years trying to get the right pieces there. And now the ones that you thought were the future are all gone. Defensive back-wise, that you always thought with some of the guys they picked in the draft over the years that they would have a breakthrough and some shutdown guys in Darqueze Dennard, William Jackson III, Drake Kirkpatrick, Kaveri Russell, who was the injured guy from Notre Dame that everyone thought was a steal. They just haven't. They haven't lived up to their draft status, and I just don't know that this team is much better. And because of the unknown that is Zach Taylor. And the health questions among their 3 best offensive players in Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, and Tyler Eifert, I just can't put them past, 6-10 last year?
Yeah.
I honestly think that they're a 4-12 team.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them at 5 wins, and in 4th place, just because I think they're not any better than last year, and I think some of the other teams have gotten better from last year. So honestly, I probably could go with 4 wins.
Right.
And I will. I am going to bump them to 4 because I think I'm going to go higher on some of the other teams here. So I'm going to go with them at 4 wins and in 4th place. And that'll be interesting because then you could be picking a quarterback next year. You'd think they'd almost have to, right?
Oh, you would. Yeah, absolutely.
With a new coach.
Yeah, that 4-12 would get them in the top 5, I would think.
Yeah.
So maybe top 3. I doubt top. I feel like they're probably. Well, no, I was going to say they're probably the worst team we've talked about so far, but there's some teams I think out west that, I don't know what to think about the Cardinals. They just don't have a lot out there. So,
we'll see.
But Kyler Murray, maybe he could do a Deshaun Watson and completely change that franchise around. A lot of these rookie quarterbacks we've seen,
Right, exactly.
but it also could be a flash in the pan. I don't know. Right. We'll see. But I'm interested to see where you go with your 3rd spot here.
So, in my 3rd spot, I'm going to go with the Ravens.
That's who I'm picking.
Okay. So, I'm going with the Ravens
So they went 10-6 and won the division last year.
I think they go 8-8 this year.
Okay.
I think they're still good, and I'm not saying that I don't think Lamar Jackson can get it done. I want to see if he can add some of the passing in.
Right.
Now, people put that on him last year. I don't put that on him. He wasn't really given the chance to develop that because Joe Flacco was still there. He's had a full offseason now. If he is not a better passer, he does not need – he can – if he is a top 20 passer in the league, that's good enough, I think, because he's going to have some of those dynamic plays. And I know people are like, oh, well, you can't sustain that over a career. They don't have to sustain it over a career right now. Like, we're talking about this year. We're not talking about who do I think is going to be the best over the next 5 years. I'm talking about who do I think – how's it going to go this year?
Right.
I think they could get some good pieces there. I think Mark Ingram is an interesting add at running back.
I agree. Because put him in there with Kenneth Dixon.
Right. And so can he just bring some stability? I think he can basically provide the production that they were or weren't getting from, the stable of guys. Now, they had a ton of injuries at that position for a few years. But, so I think it's just one of those where I think he could provide some stability there, which is huge. When you look at wide receiver, it's still really interesting. Willie Snead is there. Now, he was there last year, at least last year.
Yeah, I think last year was his first year there.
Marquise Brown adding through the draft. That's really interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's one of the better offseason acquisitions.
Right. I think if you look,
they're always going to have a solid offensive line.
Yeah.
Especially
Which
when
they
your
need.
tackles are Orlando
They
Brown
absolutely need.
and Ronnie Stanley.
Right. They absolutely need that.
I like Skura at center, and Yanda's, one of the best. An Iowa guy's going to do that for you.
I think it's going to come down to, is Lamar Jackson able to pass the ball with any kind of regularity? Right. If he is, look out. I mean, if he's a good passer, look out. Because I think they could really turn some heads. I want to see it before I'm on that wagon. And I don't think he's like, I'm not on the he won't be able to be successful. I'm on the I want to see that his game has developed. I don't think he did a whole lot last year with that, but I don't think that was all necessarily his fault. I'm going to start to have question marks this year if I'm not able to see it, you know. So it'll be interesting because teams are going to make him pass. Like teams are going to make them pass, or at least try to. Although even last year, some teams would line up and they didn't have Mark Ingram at running back. They didn't really have, they were just kind of filling in guys, and they still were able to get it done to some degree. I just think when it comes down to it, I think the Browns are a lot better. And I think the Steelers, I know they lost some key guys, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I just feel like you're talking about addition by subtraction with the Steelers.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a lot of what you said is why I have the Ravens in third as well. I think I'll put them at 7 and 9. I'll drop them down 3. And this all is, I mean, you make it sound, not you, like people in general make it sound that this is all Lamar Jackson's fault if it falls apart. And that's not the case, but he is the quarterback, so kind of is. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a Lamar Jackson hater by any stretch of the imagination. No. But I agree with everything you said that he's got to be able to prove that he can be a more legitimate passer. And that's not all on him. He wasn't given enough opportunities. If he's given those opportunities by Harbaugh, and who's their offensive coordinator? Do you know?
I don't know. I think they changed it, though. Greg Roman,
right. If he is even above average at it, they're going to win more than 7 games.
Yeah.
But then I say that and I look at the expectations for some people to step up, like Michael Floyd, to finally have a career like he was expected to have. Yeah. Marquise Brown have the impact that they hope to get out of a first-round pick, and the signing of Mark Ingram. Because other than that, there's not a lot of names there.
No.
Like I said, I like the offensive line, but defensively, I'm sure Terrell Suggs was older, but he was a mainstay there.
Right.
And also, you let C.J. Mosley walk?
I know.
That was shocking to me.
Right.
I don't get that. I mean, sure, you brought back Pernell McPhee, who, left for a cup of coffee with, was it the Browns? I forget where he went. But I don't know.
No, I agree. And that's why I have him dropping a few. It'll be interesting because this is another one. If it goes bad,
Harbaugh's gone. And then you're going to think, and if Jackson doesn't prove he can be a legitimate passer, now you have people talking, is it time to draft? Well, hey, I'm interested to see how they handle that with him. Is it going to be like was the guy in New Orleans, Taysom Hill?
Yeah.
Are they going to use him like that? Everywhere. Are we going to see him on offense, defense, and special teams? McSorley, that is?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, that was one of the worst places he could go because I can't get a Ravens jersey. Like, that's not happening. But I'm going to be rooting for him when he's on the field, so... all right. I mean, I guess it's my turn to go, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do here because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So my second place team is going to be the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going all the way because, you said it already. I think Steelers actually a little bit of addition by subtraction, getting Antonio Brown out there, which I feel like that disintegrated quickly. I feel like it was 18 months, 2 years max, because I felt like he was fine. Like, for a number, like he was goofy and like kind of odd, but like it never seemed to me like he was.
What was the beginning of the end was the video,
the locker room video, right? Yeah, which was that 2 years ago. Yeah. So all of a sudden things just fell apart. But I agree. I think they got a great one in Juju. So
yeah.
But
they need someone opposite him.
Yeah, and we'll see. But they've proven, because didn't they bring in Brown and Wallace right at the end of Hines Ward?
Yeah.
And then they went to Wallace, and then Brown was the second guy. Then Brown came in, and they brought in Schuster. Right. Now Schuster's that guy, and they got to have someone. But we'll get to the Steelers either when you talk about the second place team or I talk about my first place team. So I'm going with the Browns here, but I think this is a Browns team that very well could make the playoffs. I think they have enough talent. It's whether or not the coaching staff and the team leaders can keep it all together. Is Freddie Kitchens that guy? Now, he's obviously comfortable with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was happy that Freddie Kitchens got the job, that they were sticking with the guy that was there last year. has John Dorsey done enough, and has Jimmy Haslam kind of taken his hands off of this situation to finally have, finally had that cohesion that the Browns need? I mean, we talked about they haven't won the division since 1989. They haven't made the playoffs since 2002. I think it was early 2000s. So. They were really good in what was it, 07? But Derek Anderson was their quarterback, I think. But they were like 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs, I think. So they haven't been into the playoffs in 18 years or 17, 18 years. Haven't won a division in 30 years. I don't think the division drought ends, but I think there's a very good chance they could make the playoffs. So I'm going to have them going 10-6.
Wow.
And finishing in second. Now, last year they won what? 7-8-1. So then 7-8-1. And you're telling me that a team that added the parts that they added can't win 3 more games? And Baker Mayfield didn't start the whole year.
Yeah.
So I just think that the potential to get to double-digit wins is there. I do. And I know there's a lot of people that think that they may be the best team in the division. Maybe Justin's one of them. I don't know. We'll find out here shortly. But I'm not quite ready to crown them yet. And now this could be a step to them being that dynamite team for, a 3-4 year run. I just think it might be a year away yet, and we'll see what they can do. But when you look at the roster, the names and the raw ability,
insane.
If Baker Mayfield can replicate what he did last year, or, crazy enough for the rest of the AFC North, if he gets better in year 2, but you also have Drew Stanton there, who's not a slouch. He could fill in if he needed. Now, I'm not hoping he plays the whole season.
Then look at
your running backs. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Duke Johnson. Now, I know Duke Johnson, I think, is upset that these other guys are here now.
And I think Kareem Hunt might miss the first half of the season.
Right. But Nick Chubb, people were screaming to give him more opportunities last year. When they finally did, he delivered.
Yeah.
So when Hunt gets back, if Chubb and Johnson can hold it down, that
you
trio.
Could be adding Kareem Hunt in end of October.
Right. All of a sudden, you're halfway through the season. If you're like 6-2,
and then you get a fresh Kareem Hunt,
5-3, whatever. Oh my gosh! But then your receivers. You already had Landry last year, but now you bring in Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
You bring in Odell Beckham. Now Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham were college teammates. They wanted to play together, and now they are. Oh, they also have Antonio Callaway. No big deal.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Unreal.
Tight ends, David Njoku, probably one of the underrated guys,
and I think poised to have a huge
I was going to say, with
season.
the pieces around him, he could be this year's George Kittle.
Yeah,
that's what you could see happen with David Njoku. Offensive line, Joel Petonio, Austin Corbett, Greg Robinson, hasn't lived up to draft positioning, but now a serviceable guy. J.C. Treader, anytime you can bring in someone from the Packers, that usually goes pretty well.
Yeah.
They tend to let guys go a little earlier than they need to, but in the end it works out. But I think Treader will be fine there. So I think they've got above average offensive line.
Then you get to
the defense.
Line.
Myles Garrett has proven to be worth the pick that they used on him. They brought in via trade Olivier Vernon. And they have Sheldon Richardson and Brian Price. So your defensive line, you're okay there.
Right.
Linebackers, Christian Kirksey is probably the biggest name there, but you brought in Mack Wilson, who people thought was a steal in the draft.
Right.
Defensive backs, Morgan Burnett, Demarius Randall got in a trade last year. Denzel Ward, who people, were like, oh man, that was a reach last year. Well, he proved that it was not a reach last year because he had a great rookie season. And then they drafted Greedy Williams.
Yeah.
So now, now you've got legitimate shutdown corners at both spots if Greedy Williams can figure that role out as a rookie.
Right. And look at, you have great cornerbacks, potentially. A great secondary, great defensive line, which usually helps secondaries. Man.
Well, and look at the way the first part of the season shapes up. To me, they're better than the Titans. They're better than the Jets. They're probably not better than the Rams, but it's at home in prime time, and this team's going to be amped. So I think you could even say that's a push.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think they're, at worst, a push with the Ravens, but probably better. That's where we're putting them here. We just said the Ravens in third and them at least in second. So, I think right there they could be 3-1. At 49ers, maybe you could see it as a hiccup, but I think they're better than them. And then you got the Seahawks, but you get it at home.
Right.
So in the first 6 weeks of the season, I could easily see them at 4-2.
It's interesting because then they have a bye, and then they're away at New England, which is
tough,
insanely difficult. Then they're away at the Broncos, and I know the Broncos haven't been getting it done, but I know at Denver is never an easy win for anyone either.
Right.
So like it could be interesting coming off of a game at New England. So that's just an interesting stretch there, but
Right, but I just, I looked through the
but
schedule.
they're done with the Steelers as of December 1st, which is huge for them. I
right,
think.
and then their last 4 games, if they're the team we expect them to be, could all be wins. They could
play
finish
the
with
Steelers.
4.
They play the Steelers on November 14th and December 1st, so they play them 3 weeks apart.
Yeah, and the 14th is a Thursday.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, great! They get a long week before they play the Dolphins.
And they get the Dolphins at home.
And it's at home. And the Dolphins have never played the Browns. When the Browns are terrible, the Dolphins would still lose to them. Now the Browns are good. Oh, gosh. Whoever thought that role reversal.
Okay,
But
so
honestly,
I have to slot them here.
If
but
they
go ahead.
if they win less than 10 games, I think it's a disappointing season.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you going with them at 2 or are you bumping them?
So I was all set to put them at 2. And I feel like when you talk about it, I feel like it has to, like, you have to put them at 1. But what I'm going to do is I am going to slot them at 2. I'm going to slot them at 2 at 10 wins. And I think they're going to be in that spot for a playoff spot. I just feel like, yes, they do have all these guys. I feel like this may be that year where these guys are, quote unquote, and this is terrible, and I hate sometimes when people do this. Basically, like, I hate when other people do it, but I'm about to do it. They have to learn to win. I think.
Right. A lot of them haven't been
A lot
there.
of people think it's going to be easy for the Browns because they are so talented. And now, like, I just feel like it's not that easy in the NFL. It never is. You know what I mean? Like, it never is just that easy to kind of see what's coming. Now, I say that. Last year, you could look at it and be like, the Rams and Patriots are probably the 2 best teams, and that's who ended up in the Super Bowl. So maybe sometimes it is that easy. But I just feel like with the Browns, I feel like it just seems like they're making it too easy. I think they are really good. I think they're better than they were last year. I think it's going to be close, and they wouldn't surprise me if they win the division, but I'm going with the Steelers because I think that is a team.
Well, what do you have the Browns doing then?
10 wins.
That's what I had, 10-6.
So I think the Steelers are going to get to 11 wins, and I'm going to put them in first place because I know they lost Le'Veon Bell, who didn't play last year.
Right.
I think James Conner will step up, and I think they can kind of add in some, they can kind of split that up a little bit.
Well, the Steelers were 7-2-1 entering the game on November 25th. Right. And then they lost 4 of their next 6 to finish 9-6-1. Missed the playoffs,
including against the Broncos, who were bad, and against the Raiders, who were bad.
Right, and
you lose to the Chargers, who were good, and the Saints. You lose at the Saints, not a big deal. You lose the Chargers at home. That was a bad one.
Yeah, well, and those 4 losses were all by 7 points or less.
Right.
Now, I know people will be like, well, they also beat the Patriots by a touchdown. They beat the Bengals by 3. Like, sure, there's always a flip side to that. But I'm just saying.
They also beat the Jags by 4, and the Jags were terrible last year.
Right. Well, that was a game that, I mean, realistically, we were saying at the time, we're like, they probably should have lost to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But, and they started slow, came on strong. We were saying probably in November being like, same old Steelers.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they fell off a cliff. And
Right.
I'm not really sure what happened there, if the drama surrounding Antonio Brown started to get to them or what. But it's 2019. It's a different season. Bell's gone. Brown's gone. And I just think this is another one of those teams that we know the Steelers.
Right. So,
this is what they do. Ben Roethlisberger will be fine.
Yep.
James Conner will step in, and Jalen Samuels is ready to take over, and Trey Edmonds is there to kick in
Benny
as well.
Snell Jr., who I really like
from
because
Kentucky.
he ran all over Penn State. I don't like him, but he ran all over Penn State in the bowl game. Like, I think they're good at run. I think they're better than they were last year, considering they didn't have Le'Veon Bell last year. Like, I'm not counting him as on the team because he never showed up.
He didn't play.
Right. And I think Le'Veon Bell is very good. That was a crazy headline with him the other day.
Yeah.
Girlfriends, plural. But anyway.
It's $500,000 in jewelry.
Right. But anyway, James Conner, Benny Snell, Jalen Samuel, like, I think they've got guys there. I think they can be more than serviceable. Wide receiver, this is going to be interesting.
I think they got him in free agency. I think Moncrief is going to be that guy.
I think he is too.
But you also have Eli Rogers and James Washington.
Right.
Like, they're no slouches.
Right.
Like,
and think about how much less drama there is in this. And we always talk about how the Steelers, the thing you could talk about them with stability. They are a model of stability. Last year, they were not. They were not. And you could even argue the last 2 years. And what have they done? They've gotten rid of the two pieces that are the biggest forces rocking the boat the last 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that those guys didn't have, like, I don't know.
I know, it's a weird...
Antonio Brown, like, I'm not on board. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah,
Le'Veon Bell, I can disagree with, but I can see what, like, if you don't want to play under the franchise, so be it. Like, he did what he...
The Bell one makes more sense than the Antonio Brown one, because now you're in Oakland, and who cares?
Right.
Like, you were in Pittsburgh, which is
You're
a football capital.
For a Hall of Fame quarterback.
For one of the best ownerships in the NFL.
Yeah.
For a city that adored you until you became this prima donna.
Yes.
Like, I just don't get it.
And you will understand, and people who know me really well understand, I like Juju Smith-Schuster, and you realize how hard that is for me to say.
Because he played at USC.
He played at USC and now plays for the Steelers.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. That's insane. Like, I look at, we just talked last week, I think it was us last week, like, Ezekiel Elliott, Ohio State, this might have been with
Ohio State and Dallas.
Ohio State and Dallas. Like, that is easy on my don't root for list.
Don't
you know,
like you.
Juju Smith-Schuster is in that same category for me. Like, played at USC, on USC teams that played against Penn State.
And beat Penn State.
Right. And then you go to the Steelers, a team where I just can't do it. And here I am liking, not just rooting.
Right, he's just fun.
Oh my gosh,
he's just
I know.
Fun.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's just fun. Well, I mean, you didn't even talk about offensive line or defense yet, but offensive line, David DeCastro, Ramon Foster, Marquise Pouncey, Alejandro Villanueva. You know, you
By the way,
have
just got his MBA from Carnegie Mellon, I think. I know.
Like, okay.
Like, what
they
a guy.
like you even more.
What a guy.
Like, they're fine offensive line. I know they had some up and down years, and you know, the middle of Ben Roethlisberger's career, they had some issues, but they're gonna be okay. Like, James Conner had a great year last year, and they were a big part of that.
Right.
The defensive line, if you get me Tyson Alualu, I'm not sure how you say that. But, Javon Hargrave, Cameron Hayward, Daniel McCullers, Stephen Tuitt. Guess what? Only 3 of those 5 need to be on the field at a time.
Right.
And they have 5 guys that they can rotate in there, and that's not even to mention rookie Isaiah Buggs.
Yep.
So they're okay.
Yeah.
There. And then you look at linebackers, where they've had a little bit of an issue finding the right pieces, and Ryan Shazier's injury still. I mean, and you talk about like someone who I shouldn't like, because he was a monster at Ohio State, especially when they played Penn State. But you can't help not to root for the guy.
Oh, my gosh.
Like,
awesome.
He didn't deserve any of what happened to him. And the Steelers have done it right the whole way.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yes.
And, you know, he's a guy that I really hope he can come back. But
you look at some of these guys. So they have Bud Dupree, who I know can be up and down, but when he's up,
people are
it's
expecting him to have a great year.
Right.
And TJ Watt was what a steal for them.
Right.
Oh, but they also have Vince Williams, and then they drafted Devin Bush.
Right, exactly.
Oh, and also acquired Mark Barron, who's always been kind of an interesting, you know, is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? But now you're in a situation where you can deploy him wherever you need him. And I think this could be one of the best linebacker groups the Steelers have had in recent memory.
If you want to put like bets on players to make big plays because I don't like them, Tyler Matakevich is going to make big plays.
Right.
And listen, it's not. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't know any of that stuff. Played for Temple. Like I can't
don't
do
like
it.
you.
Right?
You know?
Exactly. So look. Yeah, I'm just explaining how you did something completely rational, and I irrationally don't like you for that.
Right.
Yet I find myself liking Juju Smith-Schuster. That just tells you how much at least I feel like he's a rootable. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Rootable.
He's rootable.
Rutabaga. So, I guess the only place that gives me a little bit of pause is the defensive backfield. But this is the Steelers. We've been saying it for how many years?
Forever.
Ever since Polamalu's height in the early mid 2000s. Right. You know, once 2009 got here, I feel like things got really bad.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been great for the last decade.
Right.
You know, they got our boy Marcus Allen, but I'm not sure he's a starter there.
No.
And they've been talking about Artie Burns possibly being, iffy. So I think Sean Davis and Terrell Edmonds are your starters at safety. Hayden's obviously one of your corners.
Right.
Can Justin Lane, the rookie, take that spot? Is it going to be reserved for Steven Nelson or Cameron Sutton?
Right.
we'll see what happens. So, I mean, if you're going to point out maybe a group that has a lot to prove, it's the defensive backfield. But
I look at this team, and again, quintessential Steelers. I know we got burned on this last year because I know I was preaching it to you, even though we weren't necessarily running shows every week last year. Like, I know I was preaching it. Like, I'll believe it when I see it with the Steelers because this is the Steelers all the time. People question them, and then they are in the playoffs. And I know they didn't make the playoffs, but if you look at it, they're just when I look at how things go, I know talent-wise they aren't better. Like I know that. Like you can't take 2 all-pro caliber guys off your team and be better talent-wise. However, I look at what's left, and this is the opposite of like I don't feel like it's the same thing as like Oakland when they got rid of 2 all-pro caliber guys last year because what's left is different than what is in Oakland, and the system that's in place is different than what's in Oakland. I just think when you look at it, you have a lot less distraction. Like, I don't see what the distractions are going to be. I am sure there will be some because the NFL and there has to be something. And you have a team that's going to feel like you don't think you're going to hear this over and over again as the season goes on, like how the Browns are going to be everybody's favorite here.
Right.
Not
the
everybody's.
Ravens won it last year.
Right. The Browns and this and the Browns and that. The Steelers are going to feel like they have a chip on their shoulder.
Off of them.
Right. There's going to be a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to feel like they have something to prove.
Well, right.
And you take out the guys that were the distractions.
That sounds like a recipe for success in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Because, so everyone's focus is on the Browns because of their acquisitions and the talent that they've accumulated. Everyone's focused on the Ravens because it's a first year of full-time Lamar Jackson. It's his team. What are they going to do there? And the Bengals have a new head coach. The Steelers lost their 2 biggest headaches that have been plaguing them for the last 2 years.
Right, but only one are they losing on-field production from last year when they won 10 games.
Right, no, they won 9. They were 9-6-1 because of the tie. So I just a recipe for success, I think, for the Steelers. And I know there are a lot of people that think we're crazy, and because I'm sure there's people that are saying they're the 3rd best team in the AFC
But if you
North.
look at it, when games are crazy down the stretch next year, as of right now, I know it can be different when we watch 2 months of games, but down the stretch next year, am I going to take the Steelers, who I know have done it before, or am I going to take the Browns, who no one there has really done it before at this level?
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's both divisions.
Oh, and then they get to play each other twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's
end
going to be
of November,
fun.
early December,
Late November games, Steelers, Browns.
Man, too bad one of those is in Thanksgiving night.
Oh, my gosh, that would be awesome.
Then we get a Thursday night game.
Yeah, but see, I love those being on, like, that Thursday night game being teams that don't, like, that I will be watching, but am just kind of, like, get my popcorn ready because.
Right. Yeah.
But let's be honest, if it's the Steelers, things just go better generally if the Steelers win, even if I don't want them to win.
Right. So, well, we actually picked the divisions exactly the
I
same,
know.
which is crazy. But so we have Chicago.
But they're not the same as last year necessarily. I know.
We have Chicago repeating.
We do.
But we do have the Steelers winning. And I think we got our first. We haven't really been talking wild cards too much, but I think we both think Cleveland will at least be in the discussion.
If they're not, it's a massive underachievement.
Right. So, but they could go 8-8, be better, and people will be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because they were 7-8-1 last year.
They could go 9-7 and not make the playoffs.
And people will be disappointed. But that's good for the franchise in terms of they're getting better. The talent's still young in there. And another offseason, it could prop them up even more. And you're getting closer and closer to Roethlisberger hanging it up.
Right.
So, even like I want
we
the
talked
Browns,
about that, how they
keep
could be
it in
peaking
focus.
at the
Browns.
right time.
If it doesn't happen this year, and I don't think anyone actually thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl, just show progress. Don't be the Jaguars, because that's exactly what happened to Jacksonville.
Yep.
And you're in better position because you have a quarterback that, I know after 1 year, we want to pump the brakes because we talked about Trubisky having one good year.
He has shown more in the 1 year than Bortles has.
Yeah, this is true.
Bortles showed that he could win games, but not in the way that Baker showed that he could win games.
Right. All right, so that wraps it up. Again, quick recap the AFC North. Bengals 4, Ravens 3, Browns 2, possible wild card, Steelers 1. So we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us a bunch of ways. Best ways, email joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. Send us what you think is going to happen in the divisions, not just the AFC and NFC North, but all of them that we covered or the ones yet to cover. Now, I don't remember. I have to pull up the schedule. I can't remember if I had scheduled a show for next week or not. That's not what I wanted. Probably pull up the actual site. Oh, good. I can't remember if I had scheduled one for next week or not. Yes, I did. Oh, but it was going to be a friend's show. Are you not around next week?
I should be around next week. I'm not around the week after that.
Yeah, I knew about that one. That's supposed to be a Bulldog Hour, so I'll have to figure out what's going on with that. I know for certain we won't be here in 3 weeks because I'm not around. Okay. So, but then I have the 7th and 14th is the end of our.
We
NFL
joke about
preview.
this a lot. I will text you next Saturday and or Sunday.
Yeah.
And be like, is there a show? What time am I supposed to be there?
So we are having a show next week. What the topic will be is TBD, because we're actually going to take a little bit of a break from NFL previews just to give a little bit of time between now and the divisions that we're most interested in the AFC East and NFC East. So
the best divisions.
We're going to, episode 280 is next Sunday, Father's Day night. I don't know what the topic will be. It may be a Friends thing where we talk about movies, television shows, parenting, whatever. We'll see. 2 weeks from now, June 23rd, will be a Bulldog Hour. June 30th, we're completely off, nothing happening. And then the July 7th and 14th, we'll wrap up our NFL previews. Part 4 of the 5-part series will be the AFC East and the AFC playoff predictions on July 7th, so in 1 month. And then the following week, July 14th, we'll wrap up the NFL predictions with part 5 focusing on the NFC East and our Super Bowl predictions. So we need a full hour to talk about our divisions and the East Coast bias that we have. So we will do that in 4 and 5 weeks. But we will be back next week. Just don't know what we'll be talking about. So we'll figure that out. And, we're going to wrap up July, I think, weeks that Justin's not around with some friends topics, probably with my wife and maybe Greg and Laura, or maybe I can get Brenton here right before his daughter is born. We'll see how he's doing. And then August is here, and guess what? We are full on Bulldog Hour for the next few months. So that's why we're wrapping up the NFL preview here in the next few weeks. So, any shout outs from you? Anything to say? Anything to add?
My cousin had her twins this week. So,
well, congratulations.
Congratulations to Kelly and Rob. That was pretty awesome. So, that happened maybe Thursday, I think.
I think I mentioned it last week, but I'll say it again. Happy birthday, belated now, to my daughter Haley, to my cousin's wife, Kristen, and also her daughter, Kylie, their daughter Kylie, who's also the same day as Haley. So a lot of stuff going on there. Also, I think since last week when we had the show, it was Brent's birthday. So a happy birthday to him, a little late. And I think that's it. Well, congratulations on Wilson baseball for a great season. Came up just awesome. A little short of making the state Final Four, but man, what a year from them. One of the best in program history, best in at least 30 years. And, they had nearly everyone back next year.
Yeah, I know the pitching staff takes a hit. And there are certainly some contributors that they're going to have a hard time trying to replace, but there are a lot of young guys on that team.
The majority of position players and their ace, for sure, are all back next year.
When Luke was the starting pitcher in a few of the playoff games, the entire 10-man lineup with DH were underclassmen, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, all sophomores and juniors. So, bright future. Hopefully they can replicate that success next year. But now everyone's focused on football. All the Bulldogs are back at Gursky. So gonna be a fun season. We'll be talking about that a lot over the next few months. But I think that's it. So for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. This wraps up episode 279 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We'll be back next week on episode 280 to talk about something else, maybe not in the sports world. So until next time, have a good evening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.